talking about Terminal Velocity. Congratulations, fabulous album. I absolutely, love the album. It's positive. It's happy. I think all around just a beautiful album.
Thank
It's been, I've been listening to it in the car when I work out, I go to bed. Yeah, absolute favorite album.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'm so glad you said that, because
Yeah.
when I was writing it and producing it, I was thinking this would be like a great album to work out to,
Absolutely.
or like, if you're driving in the car and it's just like instrumental guitar music is perfect for that type of thing.
Yeah. I was just telling a friend of mine, I said, it's just a beautiful album, and that's really all I can say about it. Right?
Thank you. I really,
yeah.
Thank you.
The thing that I really liked was every time I go back and listen to it, I kind of discover new bits and pieces, parts of the album that I can really get stuck into. Was it a conscious decision to make it, to make it just a positive, happy album? Was that the idea?
I mean, I guess so. Like, a couple of those songs were written, a few years ago. And they were already happy. A Happy song was written a few years ago. But, I've said this before, I really love playing guitar. I'm so grateful that I get to do it as a career.
Yeah.
When I sit down to write music, it's fun for me, Doing a solo album is even a little bit more liberating in that sense, because you can kind of do anything. The album features the guitar, and so I think the positivity is kind of built into it, the way that, even though, this was all done in the peak of the pandemic in New York, but it didn't really matter what was going on, outside the four walls of the studio. Once I was in that zone and writing, it's just all about the music. And yeah, I'm not interested in making any sort of gloomy, depressing albums. It's guitar is fun, and so I wanted to express that.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I think that's really come out. And is that reflective of you as a person as well? In general, positive?
I hope so. I mean, I have my negative moments, but if you listen to the music, you can hear my personality. Sometimes it's really happy. Sometimes it's pretty mean. Sometimes I get aggressive on Glassy-Eyed Zombies, and there's definitely a lot of passion and love. So you can sort of hear my personality come out.
Yeah. How different is it to doing stuff with Dream Theater? Does this help fill a different sonic and emotional space for you?
Yeah, I mean, in this case, I'm doing this by myself. So, everything that you're hearing is from my imagination to the guitar. And so, I'm sort of bouncing ideas off of myself. So it's kind of like stream of consciousness. Wherever I feel like going with the music, it goes to. With Dream Theater, you're sharing that process with other people. We're in a room, we're jamming. And that has its own benefits as well. Obviously, with the solo album, I'm not jamming with anybody. There's no, I don't get feedback from people. I don't know whether something is good or not. It's only based on my own thought.
Does that make it harder to write because you're doing it by yourself and you don't have other people?
I don't know, not for me. I think either way, it's fun. I'm in general, I'm a creative person, so I sort of adapt to the scenarios. If I'm playing with people and doing something more collaborative, or if I'm by myself, they both have their benefits and their freedoms. The thing about doing a solo guitar album, especially the way I did it, where it's just a trio, and there's no vocals, no keyboards, no. I didn't invite guest soloists to come in. It's in that sense, it's just you really get to put a lot of your ideas. Taking all the solos, taking all the melodies, writing all the music. It does very much reflect who you are as a musician, which is what I wanted it to be. And again, with Dream Theater, there is certainly that part involved. I mean, my own personality is definitely injected into Dream Theater's music, but it's a more collective situation.
Yeah.
And it's different. There's vocals and lyrics and concepts, and it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. Were you ever planning to tour with the album?
Not particularly. My thought was that, I don't, I don't focus too much on my solo career. I didn't really have a solo career before 2001 when I did the first G3 tour. My career has been more based on Dream Theater. So, you know, as a solo artist, I've sort of developed it over the last 20 years or so, by doing things, G3 tours and my Guitar Universe camp and stuff like that. But so the touring side of it isn't really, it's not something that's in the front of my mind. It's kind of like, if an opportunity arises, then now I have more material to play.
Yeah,
But
because I was just wondering if it's a different kind of performance high with Dream Theater, and if you had to tour with a solo with your music. But I guess you get that with G3. Yeah.
Exactly. It's different. You know, Dream Theater in that case, again, you know, it's a bigger type of presentation as far as production. There's a lot of history and, you know, a lot of catalog, and, you know, the interaction with the fans is like you're playing to people who know you and your music so well and are taking in the whole thing. You know, when you watch a band, when you watch Iron Maiden, when you watch Rush, Metallica, it's like you're not thinking about an individual person, you're taking in the whole experience. With G3 playing my solo stuff, it's different. In that case, it's kind of more just about, I see it as a celebration of guitar, and it's more about, like, I don't know, there's more improvisation involved. There's way more focus just on me individually on the guitar, and it's a different kind of vibe. And you're also, in that case, I'm playing to a lot of people that might not have seen me before or even heard my music, because it's not all my audience, you know.
That's true,
And the G3 sets are a lot shorter. I mean, I play for 45 minutes, whereas Dream Theater plays for 3 hours.
Yeah. You know, coming back to the album, John, you see, there's so many elements. There are so many influences of yours that come through on various tracks. Who are the people that you are inspired by, and how did it play out in the making of the albums?
Yeah, well, you know, I think you can hear in the guitar sound approach and everything. You hear and some of the songs, like that metal side, that's definitely influenced by Metallica. You know, when I first really got into them in like 85, 86, you hear the influence of Alex Lifeson and Rush on on some of my approach to guitar on a song like The Way Things Fall, maybe. As far as guitar players, you know, my favorite of all time has always been Steve Morse. So I think you hear some of that come out a bit. I hear it a bit in composition, like in Out of the Blue. And I don't know, Al Di Meola's sides come out, a little bit of Van Halen came out in this one on Snake. Yeah. A little bit of Gary Moore. It depends on where the song is going and the style of the song. That's the other thing about doing a guitar instrumental album, is that I think stylistically it's probably a little bit more diverse than a Dream Theater album, because Dream Theater has a certain sound.
Absolutely, yeah.
Even though we're a progressive band, so we always use influences from different styles. That's part of what we do. But I think, you know, with a solo album, I can do a blues song. I can do, you know, a pop song like Happy Song. I can do a straight ahead rock shuffle, and you don't really question it. You don't listen to it and say, that doesn't sound like Dream Theater. What you do is you say, hey, this is cool guitar music. And, you know, so that part of it kind of makes it really fun for me.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of doing a solo album, right? So whether it's the production or the writing or even the marketing of the album, I think you're free to do pretty much as you please. You don't need to, you know, follow a set pattern, or I guess Dream Theater would have done things differently, right? Even with putting, you know, it came out on streaming, and then the record is coming out, I think, later this month, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I could do things sort of the way, you know, it makes sense for me as an individual. Even the artist that I used for the cover is somebody different. Using Andy Sneap to mix this record, never used him before. He did a phenomenal job. So all, you know, different personnel from Dream Theater, and even, you know, getting into things like song titles. It's like you almost don't have to take it that seriously. You can do things like The Odd Father and Happy Song, but you know, if you
Absolutely.
saw that on the Dream Theater album, you would question it. You'd be like, what the hell are these guys thinking?
Yeah. But tell me, John, how is terminal velocity different from suspended animation, or how is it built on that?
Well, in some ways, it has a lot of similarities in that, you know, it's all instrumental, no vocals, and it's a trio. So I wanted to keep that that format. I really enjoy that format, the trio format. Also, it's, you know, it's similar in that I think there's a diversity of styles. Like you hear my metal side, you hear some blues, you hear some rock, and you hear some ballady stuff. You know, obviously it differs. 15 years have gone by. I think I've grown as a player, as a musician. I think my sound has honed in more.
Yeah.
Obviously, same bass player but different drummer. Mike Portnoy played on this one. That's very different, obviously, from the first one. Yeah. Different mix engineer, different recording engineer. So I think as much as I'm proud of Suspended Animation, I think the album sounds phenomenal. I think all the musicians on it were great, and Kevin Shirley did a great job mixing it. Doug Oberkirker did a great job engineering it. But I think Terminal Velocity shows my growth as, you know, my guitar sound developed, my production skills, my writing. Hopefully, I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to always sort of move forward in that. So Terminal Velocity, to me, a really good graduation into the next, you know, next level for me.
Which is fantastic, right? Because you have had this hectic schedule of, you know, there's all these things that go on in your universe, and then you're touring, and then you're, you know, doing Dream Theater stuff, but you've still managed to find the time to grow as a musician, despite being on the road so much over the last 7 years or 10 years. How is that? How have you managed to, you know, kind of grow in a sense as a musician, despite keeping this hectic schedule?
Well, it's probably because of all that stuff, you know, because I think experience, there's nothing better than experience. So over these 15 years between records, I've done not only so many Dream Theater recordings, live albums, tours, but again, you know, developed my solo side. So G3 tours, hundreds of shows with that, Guitar Universe clinics, developing my signature gear. All of that is because I'm busy, because I constantly have opportunities. You know, that sort of causes you to try new things and experiment and grow and hone in on your skills and your sound. So I think it's like more a result of being that busy.
Being busy.
It's kind of like a byproduct of being that busy. These things happen because you're working so much, you know?
Yeah. Coming back to the recording of the album, John, did you do the tracks and then you sent it to Mike and Dave? How was the recording process itself?
Right. So I wrote, started in March early this year, and I wrote all the music, and I recorded all of the final guitars first, which is something I've never done before. So, you know, the entire record was written, all the guitars were done, recorded. I programmed, me and my engineer, Jimmy T, programmed some drum programming, and I played bass, and Jimmy T played bass. So after about 2 months, we had a done record, like final guitars, programmed drums, you know, bass. It actually sounds really good. Like if you heard that. So then, you know, when I asked Dave and Mike to play on it, you know, obviously I sent them, that's what they heard. I sent them that. And, you know, in the case of Dave, he recorded remotely in Florida. So he was able to open up the sessions and hear what I did on the bass and interpret it and do his own thing. In the case of Mike Portnoy, he was able to come to my studio in person and track drums in the studio for a week with me. So the only weird thing, and Mike handled this great, he did such a great job. The only weird thing is that he was playing drums to guitars that were final. So, you know, they weren't moving, tempos weren't changing. So I guess that was a challenge, but he handled that like a pro. And the end result is that it sounds like we're all playing together. Yeah.
Which is something I was wondering, did Mike and Dave have a lot of room to maneuver around it? Or, you know, you have a vision for the album, you know what you want it to sound like.
Right.
You know, I was just wondering how much space, in a sense, Mike and Dave had, you know.
Sure. Well, again, you know, I when I showed them the music, it was a completed album, you know, so they knew what I was looking for. You know, it's not like I just sent the guitar tracks and said, okay, now make up your parts. I sent them the completed album. But having said that, you know, Mike even asked me, he said, you know, do you want me to play exactly what you programmed? And I said, no, you know, he was like, good, because I'm not that kind of a drummer. And I said, no, I want you to do your thing. The drum programming is just so you can hear you know, what I was thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
And every once in a while, there might be a very specific rhythmical motif that I really wanted Mike to do, and I would communicate that. Like, but for the most part, you know, he took notes and prepared and came in and did his thing. And same thing with Dave. I mean, Dave learned my parts, but he did his own thing, and he didn't just like play note for note. I just played like loose bass playing, just to sketch, you know. So that those guys were able to explore their own musicality and contribute in a really big way. So,
was this very different from the way you wrote Suspended Animation? Was it, or was Suspended written in a similar way? You just went in and you just got it all done?
It was different because Suspended Animation was written. First of all, it was written like in all different times. Some of the music was written so I could do G3. Some was like later. And then the way that I actually recorded it, you know, I played live with Dave DiCenzo and Dave LaRue, and we got the rhythm tracks done. And then I started recording guitar, which is more traditional. But even then, because Dream Theater was so busy, I had to do it like a couple of days here. You know, it's like, okay, now we're going on tour. Well, when I get back, I have a week, so I'll do a week there. With Terminal Velocity, I was able to do the whole thing. And this is partly due to the pandemic and the lockdown. But I was able to do the whole thing from beginning to end. Write it, record it, get it mixed, get it released. And to me, I really rather work that way, because then you could really focus on what you're doing and immerse yourself in the project. Opposed to like, oh, I could only do 2 days, and now
bits and pieces.
I don't like doing stuff that way. It's kind of weird.
But it's amazing that you've been able to focus and get it done when, I mean, the world's pretty much turned on its head, right? That you've been able to keep focus and, you know, go in there, like you said, get in the zone and do it. You know, I've been finding it really hard to focus and get stuff done, for example.
You know, you're right. And I think a lot of people have been having trouble with that during the pandemic. I think that if I were home trying to do this, you know, let's say in my studio on a laptop with headphones, like I would have never gotten any work done. It would have been really hard to be motivated. But, you know, fortunately, the timing is tremendous in that Dream Theater had built a facility, you know, a studio and everything where, you know, we're able to make records there now. And actually, Terminal Velocity is the first thing that I did at the Dream Theater studio. And it's only like 20 minutes from my house. So I was able to, even though there's a pandemic, we're on lockdown, everything's closed, I was able to get up in the morning and, you know, go to work. Go to the studio, spend 10 hours there. It didn't matter what was happening outside, and get the work done. And I did that, you know, Monday through Friday, about 10 hours a day, took the weekends off. And it really helped me. It helped with my whole, you know, my sanity and my psyche. I think it helped my family in knowing that I was doing something productive during this time and that we weren't going to fall apart, you know? So it was very helpful.
But was it good to be off the road? Has the break been good for you?
Yeah, it has been. I mean, I don't get breaks like this. You know? So it's been great as far as family. You know, I also love live performance, and, you know, so I missed that. And I think, you know, the thing that makes us a bit different is that we all don't know when it's going to come back.
Absolutely, yeah.
And how it's going to come back, what it's going to look like. And that so many, you know, it's something that it isn't talked about too much when they talk about, you know, the industries that have been hurting and affected by this. the music industry doesn't come up that much, but it's really, I know a lot of people that are closing,
venues,
you know,
venues are
schools,
closing.
you know, crews, live touring crews are all out of work. It's really, really affecting everybody.
Yeah,
You know, you think of managers, agents, promoters,
photographers. I shoot music. I mean, I had a bunch of shows lined up. I was going to do some shows at Whitesnake in the summer,
right?
you know, and it's all kind of shit. So
yes,
you know, we don't know when it will come back. Yeah, so you're right. You know, we don't know what the future of this will look like. But I think they've been experimenting, doing drive-in concerts, and there's a lot of streaming. Is that something you're looking at? I wanted to briefly touch upon the marketing of the album itself. Are you looking for new ideas and, you know, things like that? The marketing of the album?
In the case of just talking about, you know, Dream Theater, for example, we weren't supposed to go into the studio this year. We had some touring left, and then we were going to take a break. But, you know, because of everything that's happening, we're actually starting a new record next week. So we made that pivot as a band. We decided, hey, you know what? Touring might not happen for another year. As far as the streaming thing, maybe that's something we'll do, but I don't know. I don't know if that's something you could really depend on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it, but you know, making music, I know a lot about, and that's what we do. So we're going to go and make a new record.
Yeah. John, lastly, I want to just very briefly touch upon technology and guitar playing. I was talking to Jordan about it when we interviewed Jordan. We were talking about his GeoShred app and things like that. How do you think upcoming musicians can use technology better? You know, we have amp simulators, we have all kinds of things, right? So do you see guitar players being able to use tech better?
Well, they have been. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, the way that technology has impacted the guitar community has been like really incredible, and has grown so quickly to where now for me, I'm still old school. My favorite thing is plugging a guitar into an amplifier and miking it. Nothing sounds as good as that. But having said that, you could make records now anywhere. Guitar players can do things, you know, you don't need any space, you know, just on a laptop and with an interface and, you know, guitar sim amp plugins and everything. It's also made for a lot of, you know, it's made touring a lot more affordable because they can carry around a little unit that they can put in there.
Yeah. That's the thing that came out when we were talking to Jordan, right? That the economics of a gig could change if, you know, something like he had envisioned actually, you know, people started using it. So
exactly. So I mean, that has grown tremendously. I mean, there's so many amazing things out there. You can get a great guitar sound now very easily. And also the way that you share that type of stuff, you know, because it's just digital files that you can, you know, download, send, share.
Absolutely.
It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible.
I was reading about a project. I think they're using machine learning that can automate the transcription of, you know, music notation to tablature.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's
because they say a lot of, you know, I guess you'd know better, but they say a lot of established guitar players don't know how to read sheet music, but would rather read tablature because I think sheet music is historically suited for the piano. That's what I'm giving to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know what it is? Most guitar players don't learn guitar by reading music. You know, most guitar players you pick it up and you start to play and you learn guitar. But, you know, for orchestral instruments and piano, you learn the instrument by usually taking lessons on how to read music. So it's a different learning process. I think that's why. Yeah.
Lastly, John, before I let you go, I get asked this a lot. I know you went to Berkeley, and I think John Myung went to Berkeley as well.
Yeah.
How much has that helped you in your career, and what did you actually get out of going there?
Well, you know, this might sound like the easy answer, but it helped start my career because John and I went, you're correct. We met Mike Portnoy there. That never would have happened if we didn't meet him. We started a band we called Majesty, which turned Dream Theater, and that launched my career. So, you know, obviously, besides all the other benefits of the education, music education, I mean, just being, you know, meeting people and being able to network that way It's pretty incredible. I remember going there, you know, being 18 years old and in Boston and seeing all these guys with, you know, guitar gig bags on their back on the street. Like I felt like I finally belonged, you know. The cool thing is, fast forward, we just started, we launched the first ever Dream Theater scholarship with Berklee College of Music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's the first of its kind. It's a band scholarship. That's an endowment that's meant to help young musicians who are thinking about attending Berklee and need some financial help. So people can find that on the Berklee website. But that's something we announced.
Okay. Is it on the Dream Theater website as well?
I don't know. If it's not, it should be.
It should be. Yeah. What about the Guitar Universe? What is the JP Guitar Universe do? Is that a program? What is that?
All right, so that's you know, you've probably seen a lot of guitar players and musicians are doing these camps.
Like
so
the rock and roll fantasy camp and stuff. Right?
Yeah, this is not that. This is hosted by a company called Dreamcatcher, and I don't know if you've seen the camps that Steve Vai has done, Joe Satriani has done. They do these camps. So basically, in my case, it's called Guitar Universe. It's hosted by me. And I invite a bunch of guest guitar players that are the guest instructors. And then we have 200 people, you know, campers that sign up from all over the world and spend about 5 days together, you know, being immersed in this whole guitar thing. And so, you know, the campers, they take lessons from, you know, attend classes from all these guest teachers. We give concerts at night. I give master classes during the day, and then we do, you know, in my camp, we do fun things like, we do like a barbecue by the pool. We did a wine tasting. We do it depends, you know, the next one, the third one was supposed to be in August, but because of the pandemic, we postponed it. So it's rescheduled for next August. It's actually, I think right at the end of July, actually, next year. It's in California. This time, first two were in New York. This one's going to be the first one in California. It's in Irvine. The guest instructors are, if you go to johnpetrucci.com, you'll see the Guitar Universe, and you'll lose your mind by the guest instructors. It's just a ridiculous amount of people, and it's fun. We all like hang out and intermingle. It's just a really, really fun few days. It's great.
Fabulous. Are your kids musicians as well?
They are. Yeah. In fact, my son has a degree. He graduated from Berklee with a degree.
Oh, nice.
My daughters, they're all musicians. They all sing, play piano, guitar. My wife's a guitar player. Yeah. Big musical family. Yeah.
Fabulous. Anyway, John, thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
All the best with everything. All right. I hope we see you guys in India again.
I hope so too. I really enjoyed going there. So